Hello, welcome back. Tonight we saw Wrath of Man, starring Jason Statham, a Guy Ritchie film. Connor, what is the plot of Wrath of Man?
Wrath of Man stars Jason Statham, who is a mob boss who essentially works with this crew of people, and when his son is visiting him, he is tasked with staking out a armored truck that he plans on robbing his organization. And while this happens, a rival group of criminals end up robbing the armored truck and killing his son by mistake after a couple of guards try to resist. And basically, Jason Statham becomes a cash handler to try to essentially get robbed so he can hopefully get vengeance on the group that wronged him and killed his son. And the group who killed his son try to create a massive heist where they rob as much money as possible from this armored car depot, which should total them around $150 million. So Jason Statham essentially is put to war against this group of criminals. So Aiden, what did you think of Wrath of Man?
Very good. Stylish as always, Guy Ritchie movie. Very, very good editing throughout this movie. Very creative editing, very well shot. The plot is pretty interesting. I like the usage of... the movie starts on the heist that gets his son killed from the perspective of the people in the truck. We later see it from his perspective, and then again later even from the perspective of the robbers. There's lots of creative shooting, lots of creative storytelling, very stylish as always. Story's pretty good, everyone's acting is pretty good. I like the little mystery where Jason Statham knows there's someone on the inside, which is why he's become a cash handler besides hoping to get robbed, where he's trying to figure out who the informant is so he can work his way backwards. There's some very good action in the movie, and I think it's all generally very interesting. I don't have a lot to say about it. It is, despite how it's told, fairly straightforward. Very fun, interesting, well-made revenge movie, and I liked it a lot. What did you think?
I thought it was a pretty amazing movie. Guy Ritchie, between this and The Gentleman, has been doing very good work recently. Discounting Aladdin, which I haven't seen, but I've heard it's shit, and I'm not gonna watch it because fuck
eat.
that. Man's gotta eat. Man's gotta pay for his actual films he cares to make. It definitely has that distinctive Guy Ritchie editing, as you mentioned, just that whole style. But the story is really good. It's a remake of a 2004 French film called Cash Truck, I believe. And I would be interested to watch that. I was kind of searching for the Blu-ray for it, but unfortunately it seems kind of expensive and hard to track down, but I'll find it eventually. Jason Statham was really good in it. You got Michael Weston from Burn Notice. He's kind of the crime boss. You have Scott Eastwood as kind of the main unhinged criminal. The other ones in this group somewhat have a code of ethics, it seems like, at least until that final job, but Scott Eastwood is the one who kills Jason Statham's son, along with the cash guards and stuff. So a lot of it's just kind of like a revenge tale along the lines of like a Death Proof, but it definitely has a very like distinct style.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention, to cut in real quick, the movie's divided into chapters that kind of change who the perspective follows for the most part.
Yeah.
And so the third chapter is told a lot from the perspective of the robbers, and when it's in their perspective, the movie kind of becomes a heist movie where they have like the planning and they discuss the plan as it's played out, which is another thing that I thought was
Yeah, I was
very
actually
neat.
just about to bring that up. It kind of parallels like Jackie Brown in that respect, in a way, is probably the most comparable movie I can think of off the top of my head in terms of how that's structured. So if you've seen Jackie Brown and you like that kind of jumping around, gaining different perspectives on the story to kind of see it from different views, that's kind of comparable. And I really liked when Jackie Brown did that, and I think they did it very well here. And I always think that's an interesting way to look at the story and kind of gain empathy for these other characters involved in the plot, to somewhat humanize the villains. Scott Eastwood looks exactly like Clint Eastwood did.
He does. I was thinking the same thing.
In the fucking Fistful of Dollars trilogy, which was kind of cool, or the Good, the Bad, the Ugly trilogy, since I suppose that's the most famous movie from that time period, but very much looks similar to Clint Eastwood did at that time, which is kind of funny. I honestly thought all the acting was really good. I mean, you could give Jason Statham a lot of shit for being like the crank and Expendables guy, but he's good in this movie.
Yeah.
He gets the job done, and he definitely plays well on the intensity. It's kind of a quiet protagonist that's very intense, and that is a very good role for Jason Statham. There is some choppy dialogue at first, in the first part of this film. Like in the opening, first like 5 minutes, like that entire conversation between the two guards. Like the guards were not very good actors, and the dialogue was really corny and felt like film dialogue. But otherwise, like, I thought everyone else worked pretty well, like the criminal's dynamic, as well as Jason Statham. The film was pretty fucking intense for a thriller. All the action was really fun, exciting, and creative. And the cinematography all looked pretty solid. The music was, nothing too special, but it was good. I thought overall, Guy Ritchie put together a very solid film here.
Yeah. There was another neat detail that I noticed where his son was shot in in a few places in his body, and at the end he shoots the bad guy in the same way, but when he's doing his target practice, when he's getting trained in at the armored truck place, he does that shooting on the target as well.
Oh, right, and that's like you barely passed.
They graded him badly for it, but he shot it in the way his son was shot. Cool detail.
I never noticed that. That was actually a pretty cool catch.
Yeah, that's clever.
There's a lot of nice little details, and it always takes an impressive, like, to do the switch of perspectives, which feels very book-like. And this was based on the French film. I don't know if the French film also kind of divided it in chapters like this one was. That's why I'm kind of interested to watch it. But to do the different perspectives and essentially have to shoot the film with different but similar enough to keep up the illusion takes takes a lot of talent, because obviously you had to switch perspectives. And one, you're watching it from Jason Statham's perspective, you watch it from the guard's perspective first, and then you watch it from the criminal's perspective. So essentially that scene, which is essentially the most pivotal point in the plot and really marks each act, as it were, like the start of each act, because you have the first part where it follows the guards and kind of how the precinct deals with this problem, and you get Jason Statham and he's kind of mysterious. And then the second part, you figure out Jason Statham's backstory and how he ties in so that it makes sense. That's what he's doing with the precinct. This is why he's so good at shooting and whatever else, and killing people. And then you have the third part, which follows the criminals, which not only explains what happened with the heist that went wrong, but also explains how they're going into the next heist. So that's a very pivotal scene that they essentially had to shoot 3 times accurately enough that it felt smooth, and they were all similar enough versions of the same scene that it doesn't take you out of the film, and I think they achieved that very well.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So Aiden, would you recommend Wrath of Man?
Yes, I would recommend it. It's very good. Connor, would you?
I would also recommend Wrath of Man. It's really good for everyone. I think it's a
Great for the kids.
good action. Well, I mean, in terms of our audience,
Yeah.
ideally not children, but you know, it has a lot of cool action and intensity. So if you're not really like into the film aspects necessarily or how they did it technically, it's a good film. Editing and shot wise, there's a lot of technically impressive things to it. So there's a lot to unpack and enjoy, and I just thought it was incredibly solid.